What up, perps? Kid Copious. Back in effect. You know what this is. This is the Purple State Party. We rep America, the center, common sense, and now freedom. So let's get this thing popping. Yeah. You might notice a little bit different background. I'm working on that. I'm trying to get myself high def, and I have to do it all myself, and I work a job that kind of leaves me a little bit tired at the end of the day. So forgive the mess. We are open during construction. So I was on with my brother the other day, and he's trying to tell me, I could make more money because I ain't making any doing this. If I would have just go completely to the right and just preach to the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world. I said, I'm not trying to make money. I'm trying to change the world. I'm trying to change America. And I know, realistically, that's it. I'm not going to be the one. I'm just planting the seeds. I'm just trying to open up an avenue down the middle. It is lonely in the center. I mean, pretty sure that for the most part, I would not be well received in Republican circles. I smoke weed, so I'm pretty much disqualified from a lot of them. A lot of the libertarians, a lot of the third party people, I hear the way they speak about it. They talk about, Scooby Doo, the cartoon that people watched while they were getting high. And then when they talk about what their perfect evening is, it's, one announcer says, well, it's a steak and a half a bottle of wine. And the other announcer says, why stop at a half a bottle? And they chuckle, you're right, a full bottle. They're kind of hypocrites, promoting alcohol and besmirching weed, whatever. Same thing with over on the Democrat side, I don't support a lot of their policies. Tough on crime, ardent supporter of the Second Amendment. So, they're going to ask me to leave. But at the end of the day, the reality is if we don't move to the center, we're screwed. When we're seeing it in full technicolor right now. Smacking my mic. But anyhow, hey, new look, got a little bit of hope for the future. And I'm just going to keep fighting the good fight. So, that's all I could ask of y'all. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's show, please like, subscribe, turn on the notifies, and let's multiply. All right. So, as most people know, Trump did a town hall on CNN, and for the most part, it kind of seems like he roasted them a little bit. He had some, good answers. They tried to, corner him on why he had one opinion on the debt ceiling when he was president and why he's changed his tune. He simply said, yeah, I was president then, not president now. That little bit of honesty, the fact that he could sit there for as long as he did and just field questions, random even attacks, and comport himself in the way that he did, should be a wake-up call that Biden is not the man. Okay, he's not the guy to lead the country. He's not what we need. He's a puppet of a group of people who have some pretty radical ideas. And that's why he's there, because he's the one willing to be the mouthpiece. I don't think Trump's willing to be a mouthpiece. I don't think. We haven't seen it. We certainly don't have any evidence that he's simply parroting some extremist. He does play to the extremists, and that was my problem with him. But after this interview, I think he's got the nomination locked up, and quite frankly, I'm not going to risk something happening with Biden, whether he's forced out of office, dies, whatever, I don't want Kamala Harris in there. Should not be the person who represents the first female U.S. president. We need a female U.S. president. High time. There's plenty of qualified candidates from both sides of the fence and a few that are in the middle. That's cool. That's great. But just not Kamala. She doesn't deserve it. And we certainly don't deserve it. One of the things they grilled him on was about the Ukraine, trying to get him to make statements that they can then, of course, twist and say, oh, look, he's pro-Putin. And, of course, that's what they did. But in this article that I read here, it really breaks down why what he said was exactly correct. Trump's controversial but correct Ukraine analysis sparks controversy. You know, a young college student asked Trump during this town hall, the current administration has made it clear that we should continue to provide military equipment to Ukraine so they can defend themselves. Do you support this decision? And how would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Putin? Well, he said that, thanked her for the question, said it was important. And he said, we're giving away too much stuff. We're committing far more to the Ukraine than the European Union is. And it's true. And the war is in their backyard. Short of nuclear weapons, what do we have to fear from the Russians directly? Short of the nuclear weapons that have been there since the 50s. Nothing. They're not going to invade us. They can mutually self-assured destruction, take us off the planet along with themselves, but they can't roll tanks into Kentucky. We are being taken advantage of. We are providing gobs of money in what, is a European conflict. I support Ukraine. I wish them well. I was hoping that their determination would drive Russia out, but Russia has shown that they're not going anywhere. If they're not going anywhere, they're not going anywhere. And that's where Trump's position is coming from. The moderator lobbed at him, do you want Ukraine to win this war? This reveals an actually very interesting split when it comes to the conflict. Yeah, lots of people want the Ukraine to win, and they don't want to accept anything else. But the reality is, while we can be on the side of the Ukrainian people, as the author here, Hannah says, it's wildly impractical and unrealistic to hold out for an outright victory. In practice, that absolutely cracked position that risks nuclear war will continue to cost countless lives and require vast sums of money to even attempt to win. To even make the attempt, and it's going to fail. It would be virtually impossible for Ukraine to win this war. That's just the way it is. It is. And we're going to have to negotiate a peace. As long as we funnel arms and money into Ukraine, the war continues. But Biden and the current administration has made it clear they are on the side of Ukraine. Great. Now, how do you bring Russia to the table? Doesn't make sense. It's impractical. And that's where Trump's position is coming from. To his credit in the answer about Ukraine winning the war, I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we can stop killing all these people. That's the adult answer. She then continued, can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war? I want everybody to stop dying, Trump responded. They're dying, Russians and Ukrainians. You have to be able to broker some sort of peace agreement. And it should have been done in the beginning. Instead, we used sanctions to threaten Russia. We didn't try to get them to a negotiation. We didn't. This conflict has raged on long enough now. We're at the point now where, yes, the Ukraine is going to have to give up something. That's the only solution. Look, if we decided that we, the United States, really wanted to invade Canada, what could they really do to stop us? Sure, they could guerrilla actions. They could put up a strong, brave front for a while. But eventually we roll over them. That's just what happens. And the sooner we recognize the futility of this war, Trump further went on to mock his accusers. He called the CNN moderator nasty and spread more lies about the 2020 election. This is not from the same article, I should clarify. But the thing that I liked was Biden's Twitter response. It's simple, folks. Do you want 4 more years of that? Well, it's a hell of a lot better than the 4 years that we've had with Biden, or 3 years, or whatever we're at. This administration is not accepting reality. They are not accepting responsibility. They operate in a world that, as long as they have an excuse and a scapegoat, they will continue to make bad decisions. And we can't afford that much longer. As we're seeing, we're letting streams and streams of people into this country. And just like what happened with COVID, we won't see the effects for a few years down the line. Like we're seeing right now. COVID shuttered a lot of stores in San Francisco. When those stores returned and the problems have kind of exploded, these people are pulling out because people aren't returning to work. See, that was the problem with shutting down the country, or the state, I should say. The country, yeah, we could argue that later. But the state. People had to make accommodations to work from home. Once those accommodations were made and people saw what it was like to work from home, they didn't want to go back to the office. And the companies are too afraid to enforce anything. I was recently at a place and it was actually full. And I said, wow, I haven't seen a full office in a while. And they said, well, it's only Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The rest of the days, everybody works from home. Well, you don't need real estate to do that. It changes the way things are done, and therefore, and that's what we're seeing under Biden. Biden, in his war on oil and things like that, is shutting down future projects, shutting down progressing. It's making it stagnant. And when we try to make this switch to renewable resources and those systems tank, we're going to be left going back to the old way, but the old way will have stagnated. We're backing ourselves into a corner, and it needs to stop. So Gavin Newsom is remaining silent on reparations, but it's beginning to look like, that's not going to actually happen. California is facing a huge budget deficit, and does not look good. Right now, they had a proposal of $1.2 million for each black Californian, should they meet certain requirements, because, you don't want to give out too much money. But of course, the far left activists, they want, and this is just one guy, Tony Pierce, bona fide idiot, but he just wants $200 million for each and every African American, while another activist said payment should be starting at $5 million. Well, we already know this argument. Why should a free state pay for slavery? Why should people who did not participate in slavery, or even some of the discrimination that they're lumping in there, why should we pay people who haven't experienced that, who didn't have to live through slavery? And I'm a big supporter. If you could find where racism at a government level screwed somebody over, then fix it. Gavin Newsom's done that here in California, returning beachfront property to a black family. I supported that because it was one individual issue that could be proven. Yep. So Newsom went on to say that dealing with that legacy is much more than cash payments. This should be an important process, and we should continue to work as a nation to reconcile our original sin of slavery. Well, one of the little finer points to this is that we as a nation didn't invent slavery. I'm not saying we didn't profit, I'm not saying we didn't participate, but it was here before we were even the United States of America. 1776. By the 1860s, we were fighting a war to end slavery. Okay? One of the biggest problems with the reparations is that there are a lot of people who have been mistreated in this country, unfortunately. Certain areas were exclusive and you couldn't sell or rent to blacks or Jews. Asians in California up until like 1952 were limited in what they could do, buying property, serving on juries, things like that. Lots of people have been affected by the state and by the federal government. I mean, what about the white plantation owner who had his entire wealth burned by Union soldiers? That was the government. Those were federal troops. So where do you draw the line with this? This is why these historical type reparations are not legal, because they're not requiring any sort of proof, any sort of adjudication. It's just, hey, look, the color of your skin, here's some money. And we're not allowed to do that. Should we fix the problem? Sure. Should we make sure that they don't happen again? Of course. But reparations, my pictures are really out of order this time. So, when George Santos here got elected, gay Republican, I kind of pointed out that the Democrats certainly jumped on him. Perhaps they were right. It does seem like maybe this dude, misled donors, misrepresented his finances to public and government agencies. And again, look, I'm no fan of either side. I want both sides to go away and everybody vote in the middle. I want purple. I don't care about red or blue. So, if he's a crook, he's a crook. But, that was... So, Mayorkas heads to border to fire starter pistol when Title 42 expires. Well, as of right now, it hasn't exactly exploded, but in the days leading up to it, they were averaging something like 11,000 people a day. Like I've said before, it's unsustainable. Okay, we are suffering in places like New York, California, San Francisco, blah 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 blah, suffering massive homeless problems. Oh, sure, a lot of it mental health, drugs, just criminals, just people who don't want to have to pay bills. I get it. It's not all just simply homeless people, but when you add a whole bunch of people from disparate parts of the world who aren't necessarily legally allowed to work here or can't move freely or whatever, where do you put them? How do you sustain them? You can't just let them come here and hope for the best. They're sending the military to the southern border to carry border processing forms, followed by Mr. Donkey there with the voter registration forms. If that's all it's about, you see, that's the problem we have. The political parties are willing to risk the betterment of the citizens, the health of the citizens, the safety of the citizens to get votes. And they think that that's what this is going to lead to. Only time will tell, but, even if 90% of the people who come to this country are legit, you're still leaving a lot of people. In 2019, they had 0 encounters with known or suspected terrorists. That number almost hit 100. Okay, it demonstrates, as you can see right here, it demonstrates the increase. Look at the amount of fentanyl that's coming to the country. Our border is not secure. And you put somebody like Mayorkas up there who says, oh, the border's secure. And we're supposed to just believe it? The border are open. It will take time. You've had 3 years. It has been a failure the entire time, from almost the minute Biden took office until today. And people are dying, and people are supporting cartels to get here. None of this is good. None of this is humane. All right? There are mechanizations in our world that allow people to immigrate here. And they're not being followed. And when they don't follow the rules, they're then rewarded. Jill Biden excited to hear about the arrival of record numbers of breakfast tacos. That's a throwback. And, we were talking about San Francisco, earlier. A San Francisco lawmaker floats ban on security guards drawing weapons to protect property amid retail theft. Yeah, well, it kind of goes to this, Yeah, you don't value the life of the burglar. Look, I understand, again, You can make the case that some of the shoplifting is out of necessity. Cool. All right. Maybe we should fix that particular problem. But a lot of it is just criminal elements. If you don't know that criminals simply exploit whatever they can exploit, you know, you gotta educate yourself. Because criminals exploit every opening. And that doesn't mean just criminals who steal or sell drugs. It's people who want to cheat the system. You leave them an opening and they will take it. So yeah, basically this guy, Dean Preston, says he's going to propose that they can't pull a gun because, one guard shot and killed an alleged shoplifter last month. Okay. He wasn't protecting the property when he shot the guy. He was protecting himself. They do this. There's an ad about doing it from Cascade about doing your dishes every day. And they say, well, a dishwasher uses less water than hand washing. Okay, fair enough. But does that mean you should just run your dishwasher every day? Well, why not wait till it's full? You don't waste water. You don't waste electricity. Oh, but you waste less than hand washing. All right, well, hand washing doesn't take electricity. Stop with these throwing things up and just hoping people believe them. If you don't have facts and logic behind it, then shut the fuck up. He wasn't protecting property. He was protecting himself. He tried to protect property, but the guy lunged at him, got shot. That's what happens. Meanwhile, another one of our glorious leaders, Rashida Tlaib, is hosting a congressional event to mourn the catastrophe of the founding of Israel. And of course, she tries to say that she was just a special guest, but it's taking place in the Capitol Visitor Center, whose event space can only be reserved by a sitting member of Congress. So if it wasn't her, who was it? Has Israel made mistakes? Yeah. Well, look it up. I mean, at one point, the people who were trying to form Israel wanted the British out, and they bombed a hotel. Yeah, they have done. But keep in mind, since their formation, they've been attacked by all their neighbors. They're constantly being attacked by terrorists. Do things need to be fixed over there? I'll be honest with you, I don't know. A lot of the reports are that a lot of people live and coexist inside of Israel. They've made it work. But there are radical elements that don't like that. It's the way it works. Sometimes when groups get along, groups want to just split them up. Yeah, really quick on this. When they refuse charges in a shooting because of a lack of evidence, and then at the end of the article, they have that picture. We're really confused how a picture of the suspect firing a gun is an evidence, because that looks like it came more than likely from a video. So I don't get it. I just found that amusing. Returning to San Francisco. Look at that. Cocoa Republic. Well-documented issues despite taking numerous precautions. Yeah. There's an article floating around out there that was somebody was trying to prove that San Francisco wasn't as bad as people said and ended up proving the opposite. And I'll find it and put it up here somewhere. But, earlier I was talking about what happens with commercial real estate. Right now, the vacancy rate for commercial real estate in San Francisco is 30%. That is a lot. That is a lot. That is a significant amount. Considering as people pull out, that effect is that other people start to pull out. When you start losing the big draws at a mall, it's only a matter of time before that mall declines. I've seen it in California, and we have one of the more vigorous mall environments. It's easier for malls to survive here than in other places. And those are the facts. But their way isn't working up there. The propositions that we put out to help give people a second chance are being turned against us because that's what criminals do. Criminals exploit every advantage. Like it says right there, Prop 47. made theft of under 950 a nonviolent misdemeanor. There is no deterrent in the state of California to discourage theft. Already this year, 10,000 cases of larceny and theft in San Francisco. It's unsustainable. It's not facing reality. Okay. Tucker. Yeah, Tucker's getting lucky, I'll tell you. Cable as a whole, the idea of these television networks, it's going to be dead pretty soon. They can continue on as much as they want to try, but I mean, I think it's a sinking ship. I think we're going to start seeing this across the board with television as a whole. They're going to have to move to platforms. A lot of channels are going to disappear, and I think one of the first victims of all that will be cable news. Because you have to pay for cable to get cable news. It's not like you could put up rabbit ears and get Fox News or CNN or any of the other ones. And I'm not going to talk about the Tucker Carlson thing because I don't even care. I don't give a shit. I've heard that him and his team were assholes and Rupert got tired of it. I've heard that they did it because of the lawsuit. I mean, that's believable too, Either way, but I don't care enough to investigate it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Yeah. I don't know if many people are saying. I mean, I was on the side of Dylan and Bud Light. I don't see the big deal, but you know what? I was also against getting rid of Aunt Jemima. She was somewhat of a real person who actually achieved something. I don't see anything racist in that at all. I just don't. I don't see race and racism, I guess. Biden offers money to journalists to stop talking about his family's bribery allegations. Oh, that's witty. I love this one. Biden pulls out handy wheel of distraction to deflect from latest scandal. And that's what they do. Like we harken back to San Francisco, and they like to point out that they have a lower crime rate than other big cities. That's great, except that in other big cities, it's not as expensive. See, and therein lies the problem. If doing business in San Francisco is frickin' expensive, which it is, right? And you're taking huge losses, those losses are more felt there than in somewhere like Detroit, where I'm pretty sure commercial real estate is much cheaper. If I can find it, I'll put it right here. But that's the whole idea of distraction. You bring up something about like the handling of the border, and we have to hear about, Trump did this and Trump did that. Okay, that's great, but how are you addressing the border? You're not. You're just distracting. Yeah, maybe Trump did some things, but guess what? That doesn't mean that Biden didn't do those things, right? You can say whatever you want about Ivanka Trump, trademarks, China, all that, but Hunter Biden did solicit what appears to be bribes. The stuff that we're seeing right now in Oakland, the teachers are on strike. They got a 22% raise, but they're still on strike. And for what? They want to house homeless families on school property. They want drought-resistant trees. They want reparations for black students. They want a day of social justice and climate justice. We are allowing the extremists to run things right now. You might have thought that Joe Biden was a moderate, but he's not. You might have thought that the Democratic Party still had some moderate viewpoints. They don't. It's all extremists right now. And we only have two choices. We have red and blue. By 2024, it's not enough time to have a viable third party. So I, for one, I'm glad Trump went on and slayed on CNN. I'm glad Trump delivered some just reality. Because as it stands right now, That dude's our only hope. And, you know, it doesn't exactly fill me with determination. I'm Kid Copious. I'm Purple State Party. So are you. Peace, y'all. Keep it real and dance it out.